What's going on, Minnesota Viking fans? Welcome to the Purple Peel Podcast. I just feel like doing this today. You guys with me?
I agree with you. Yeah, we could do the SKOL chant right here on the podcast.
This is going to be a happy show, I promise you. Welcome. I've got Mr. Adam Carlson with me.
How's it going, guys?
Going good. It's a damn good day.
Yeah.
Mr. Kyle West, of course. How are you, sir?
I'd do it one more time. Got to give a big SKOL. Everyone out there in the chat room with us.
Hell yeah.
Listening to the show.
Finally have my notes up for this stuff, too.
We don't even need notes this week.
No, this was... I actually am still a little bit stunned, about how everything worked out this week.
Right.
And it took me a long time to sit down and finish my articles based on the game because it just blew me away. But I'm sure we'll talk a lot more about the Saints divisional round playoff game against Minnesota.
Adam, your mic is a little bit hot.
Yeah, bump it down just a tad.
Bump you down just a tad.
Just take it down a notch.
Okay.
Yeah, take it to the level of my voice, because if you guys haven't heard, on this 285th episode of the Purple Peel Podcast titled SKOL Crazy, literally a miracle happened yesterday, and
the Minneapolis miracle.
I went through a range of emotions in a matter of 3 minutes. My body was just like, can you pick one and just stay with it so we can figure this out? Lost my voice. I ended up buying a round of shots for the guys, all the Vikings fans in the bar I was at. It was just super happy. It was a good day for us. But we're going to talk about that game because we're headed to the NFC Championship game. But before we get there, let's do what we always do here on this show and talk about some quick hits. So we have some news. I'm pretty bummed out about this first one, and I want to know everybody in the chat's thoughts. And we might actually put this up as a social media question, since
that would be a good social media. We should do that.
I just quit my job doing that a long time ago, and I need to get back on it. Pat Shurmur, our offensive coordinator, is the front runner, or supposedly it's announced. He can't really do anything with the NFL tampering rules yet, but he's expected to sign and to be the New York Giants' new head coach, which is super sad. I guess this was the number one on his list. It's kind of a shock to me because you got an older quarterback, depleted with injuries, really the only star that you have there. Odell Beckham's probably the biggest name in the face, but they got a lot of work to do, man. But if anybody could do it, I'm sure it's Pat. But what do you guys think about this? I was super bummed to hear about this.
We were just talking about this right before we started recording, and we were like, God damn, this would have been a good conversation for the show. Because we do that all the time. We're like, why are we not recording? I'm glad that he's not staying in the division. I think that kind of would have been a dick move for him to do, to sign with either Detroit or Chicago. For him going to the Giants, it's interesting. He's got Eli, but they also got a super low draft pick. Isn't it number 2? Are they number 2?
They are number 2. They are right after Cleveland because they've had a
so they could totally snag themselves a quarterback to sit that he could groom underneath Eli, which is probably the plan on what they're thinking. As for Minnesota, we were talking about the potential of them promoting from within, a coach from up the ranks. That way I don't want to see them have to gut this entire system that they've built. I mean, they kept it from North Turner to Pat Shurmur to whoever's next, and they've just kind of seemed to make tweaks to it instead of redoing a whole system. I don't want to see a coach come in and throw everything out and have to start over with a whole new offense. I think that would be a mistake. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, as we were talking about that, you said that you like Stefan, what's his name? Stefanski?
Yeah, correct.
Kevin Stefanski, the quarterback's coach. You like him to come up. I said that I'd like to see Tony Sperano get another offensive coordinator chance. But if they are going to promote from within, they do have some good options, especially, because there are so many talented people on the offensive unit. A lot of experience. Even Kennedy Polamalu has a ton of experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So, yeah, there are a lot of options. Of course, they could go outside the Vikings organization, too, and try to find someone who can work with quarterbacks, the way that the coaching staff has been. But, yeah, it sucks to see him go, but I don't think that it's going to be that awful of a thing for Minnesota.
we're, like we said, this is a team that we ride Mike Zimmer and the defense, and the offense does amazing things like we've seen as well too. I don't want to knock them, but it's still the defense that gets us where we're going. And we have a smart coaching staff in place. I think they will be able to survive this transition away from him in the offseason and be fine.
I think the biggest thing for me is have we nailed down the positions for at least a 2-year period? I think we're good. And let's start at the offensive line, because quarterback can go one of 3 ways. The least that I think we all can agree on and the chat would agree on, I don't see Sam Bradford back based on health and price. So it's really a toss-up. What I thought was going to happen, and I was just talking to a really good and pretty famous friend of mine last night. Shout out to James Hart, even though you're a dirty Chicago Bears fan. Yeah, he's in a band called 18 Visions. If you guys love metal, please check them out. They've been around for a long time. But we were talking about last night. He said Shermer and Case Keenum to Arizona. And I said it's a very good possibility since they're without a head coach and a quarterback. The big underlying factor we'll talk about in the offseason is Case Keenum coming back, because I think Teddy Bridgewater stays. That's just me personally. But do we have the pieces in place? Defensively, I think we're great. We're always going to add depth at corner and the defensive line. That's always going to happen with Mike Zimmer. But have we figured out essentially to keep a unit together to mimic like the Cowboys or the Eagles or someone with a really good line? Because I think what we did this year and making a total overhaul and a change was a great idea. So have we nailed that down and have at least 2 years of the same squad? Because I think what Kyle is saying, hey, there's not going to be a big drop off if we can keep the pieces together, because it's really hard to grab a coach and then grab a new body and just hope it meshes well together. But somehow it worked this year.
Yeah, we're looking at Berger and Newman probably being the 2 players that are leaving that could be an issue to replace.
Mm-hmm.
And I could see the Vikings taking both a guard center and maybe even just a guard tackle. I don't know, but some interior offensive linemen as well as a cornerback in the first couple of rounds of the draft. And as long as the Vikings can lock down a quarterback, which we've got in the chat, people saying that it's probably going to be someone heading to the Giants with our offensive coordinator, either Keenum or Bradford. And I think they could get Bradford for cheaper than Keenum these days. So
you know what? And this is a good talk for off season. We can move on here really shortly. But I think that Case Keenum talked openly in that article that you shared with me, Adam, that he wrote for, what was it, Pioneer Press or Star Tribune?
No. It's the Players Journal. They write. Each of the players just writes an article. There's really good ones on there.
Anyway, he talked about how Minnesota was, he felt, the only team that believed in him this last off season. So considering what they've done and where they're going, and I have a hard time believing that he would just be like, okay, screw you guys, I'm going to Cleveland for a boatload of money. Like, I'm not saying that they should lowball him, but I think that he wants to stay in Minnesota. I believe that. And I think that Rick Spielman can work some magic and make something happen to keep him here.
So at this point, you believe Minnesota is willing to put some cash behind Keenum to see what he's got and kind of just wait and see on Bridgewater, or what do you think?
I think they can keep both. I think there's a way that Rick Spielman can do what he does and negotiate. I think you can keep Case, and I think you can keep Teddy, and Bradford can go do his thing, and you've got Kyle Slaughter floating around there or whatever else you want to do. I think they can work that out in this offseason.
So I see Eli Manning moving on, Bradford maybe hopping over there, but we're speculating too much on the Giants' future, and we got to focus on Minnesota.
Oh, so the next quick hit we have, update from Mike Zimmer on safety Andrew Sendejo. In his presser today, he said, and I quote, he's doing a lot better. He was actually the first one that greeted me in the locker room after the game, which is really funny for which one of you guys put this in there, because I was listening to it on the way home from grabbing some dinner. Sendejo entered concussion protocol Sunday and will continue to be evaluated as the week progresses. I'm going to say this, and I don't mean any disrespect, because, spoiler alert, Andrew Sendejo may get a game ball tonight because he played out of his mind last night for the first half. I don't think that our drop-off at safety is that bad. I love Anthony Harris. I saw a lot of film on him being in Virginia when he was there. I think he does a great job when he's asked to step in. Obviously, he's not better than Sendejo, otherwise he'd be the starter. But I do think that he does a great job. But that might be a little crucial thing, because we have and surprisingly, for some weird reason, Joe Buck and Troy Aikman gave us credit yesterday for something. They said we have one of the better safety tandems in the league. Like, obviously in the top half, they said it might be arguably the best. You can put that argument out there.
Mm-hmm.
So we wish him the best. It's good progress to hear. I hope he plays Sunday. We need him.
Yeah, Sendejo was playing an amazing game before he got hit for that concussion, and it was sad to see him go out. But it's Sendejo. I don't think people still give him enough respect or recognition for what he really does in a game and how much he puts on his body on the line during every game. And I like Harris, I do, but he's still got a ways to go before he can reach the level where Sendejo has been playing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Would definitely agree with that. Moving right along, we have Professional Football Writers of America announced its 2017 All NFL team, which featured Vikings cornerback Xavier Rhodes and Harrison Smith named to the team. It's pretty common. They probably followed. I have no idea about this, so you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure they follow a similar format to the All-Pro type deal. It sounds like it's like. But both these guys were named All-Pros, and rightfully so because they've had amazing years. But that's pretty cool. Just another little thing, a little notch on the belt for this season for both of those guys.
Love seeing our Vikings get represented in the press in these honors, and whatever way it is. I just think it's cool that they're getting recognition.
I also love it because of how I've been watching the Herd lately, and Colin Cowherd likes to say that the Vikings have a no-name defense. And it's like, I don't know, man.
What was the number on how many people? I've seen the telecast number for how many people witnessed that last play of the Vikings. It was a lot of folks. That if we were a no-name team before, we're not now. Stephon Diggs is a household name at this point.
Yep.
And the Minnesota Vikings, I'm sure there's a lot of people who don't know about us that are going to be Googling and seeing all of this stuff and looking into players that maybe they weren't familiar with Harrison Smith and Xavier Rhodes, but they're going to be here really soon.
Yeah, we're going to have a lot to do in these next couple of years. We're going to have to lock up guys like Stephon Diggs and Anthony Barr and Eric Kendricks, all these great early round and first round picks. Obviously not talking about Stephon. He dropped to the 5th round, but he's going to get paid. And if it's not in Minnesota, he might chase money. And I love Stephon Diggs. I think he might be a guy that would go chase his money, which he has every right to do. But yeah, I agree with you. I think after last night, people probably know a little bit more about this guy.
Mm-hmm.
That was a pretty crazy play. We're going to talk about that play later. Let's talk about some moves to the roster here. If you guys didn't hear and you didn't watch the game yesterday, shame on you. But you would have heard that the Vikings released tight end Kyle Carter, who was added to the team a couple weeks ago, and they activated Sam Bradford. Interesting note from yesterday, Teddy Bridgewater did not dress, and Sam Bradford was the backup, which was a smart move. We don't know how healthy Bradford is. Obviously, he's had the whole season to come back from whatever's been bothering his knee, which I never heard what it was. And I want this. This is like Area 51 information that I think we need to know. But,
I read a little bit about that. I don't know if I'm going to quote it 100% right. It was his left knee that he had a bunch of surgery on, and so they had to clean up some, I think, scar tissue and bone spurring, whatever that means. That's the latest I had read on it.
Okay. Yeah, they've kept it pretty hush hush. I mean, obviously, Case was playing out his mind. We didn't have to worry about Bradford too much, but it was kind of weird. Like I figured, when Teddy went down, it was gruesome and terrible. We all remember that day like it was yesterday, but we got news of what it was and how it happened. And Sam just played the game of his life, and then all of a sudden, Case Keenum's starting him. Like, what?
I think the story that's kind of getting buried here isn't Bradford versus Bridgewater for the backup. It's that Slaughter is QB3 over Bridgewater.
I don't know. I don't like having 4 quarterbacks on the roster right now.
But they can't release Kyle Slaughter because he'll get picked up.
I know. And I totally get that. They're in a weird position right now with having to keep 4 of them. I don't like it.
No, usually when we do our roster lists, we usually just keep 2.
2?
We know the Vikings, they like having 3. So, we're like, okay, there's 3.
4.
4 is a lot. 4 is where you start looking like you're just collecting quarterbacks.
Yeah. I think we on this podcast, or if it wasn't here, it was definitely some of my friends at work. I actually made fun of the New York Jets before for having 4 quarterbacks. Well, and I was like, for what? And here we are.
Here we are with 4. I looked it up really quick for those curious. The final part of that game was viewed by 34.5 million people on Fox. That's a lot of people that if they didn't know the Minnesota Vikings, just got a hell of an introduction to our team.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I bet you that a lot more, I won't say bandwagon fans, but maybe some fans were converted that night.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I'm talking to guys in the chat. What's up, everybody? Give a shout out to some of these people. Paul Gruber, Eric Spencer, Eric Grindal, Habna. That's a nice name. Thomas Buse, Jason Tavade. Chat's going pretty good. It's cool to actually understand how to do this now since I'm not in the 21st century with everyone.
Hey, technology.
Computers are hard.
It's a wonderful thing.
You're like that girl in that Apple commercial. What's a computer?
Oh, that girl.
And
what's a computer?
My son's going to make me feel really old in about 10 to 15 years. So that's going to be fun. So we were talking about moves. We got kind of caught up because we're super happy and giddy today about this game. And just how we do here on the Purple People podcast. But practice squad moves. Defensive tackle Dylan Bradley was placed on squad injured / practice squad / injured list. Oh, this is going to be good. Oh, yeah.
I'm glad you got this one, bud.
Kashad.
All right. Defensive tackle Kashad Lyons was signed. Tackle Dugat Joseph was signed.
Yeah.
Digot?
I don't know.
Digot? We're going to go with Digot.
Sure.
Dugu? I don't know.
With the question mark. Damn it, put the question mark on the teleprompt. Yep. So
that happened.
Squad moves. Yes, all that happened this week.
We're also, that's the highlight of our week. Nothing else happened other than that practice squad transaction.
How pissed would people be if we did that as a spoof one day? We're just like, this is episode number 296, and we signed these people, and you guys stay classy, Minnesota. And we just signed off.
Well, I mean, sometimes our off-season shows get like that.
Hey, I've seen other podcasts where episodes are only like 8 minutes long.
5 minutes.
Well,
let's just keep on rolling, guys. What's next in the list? Don't touch that one.
Here's the best story of the weekend. If you guys didn't hear about it, obviously this ties in with the Minnesota Miracle yesterday, but Miss Millie Wall is about to turn 100 years old. She's a Viking super fan, and she got tickets because the Vikings heard about her, and she's like, you know what? I wanted to go to a playoff game. And the Vikings said, sure. And I think it was obviously her family that did the video. She read a letter that the Vikings gave her and said, hey, we'd like you to come to this playoff game on us. And you just see the shock on her face. She was like, are you serious? Well, it gets better. Not only did she get to see a win in person yesterday in super dramatic and in crazy, insane fashion, but Roger Goodell has gave her Super Bowl tickets.
Yeah.
And I
love Millie.
I'm so happy for her.
She's our new unofficial mascot of the Minnesota Vikings.
Millie, I don't swear.
Been a fan of the Vikings since day one. That's incredible.
I can't say this without apologizing because I feel bad for swearing. That's such a sweet lady. Millie, get your ass to Philadelphia. Get over there.
No,
get your ass to Philadelphia. Start driving today. I don't know. I'm sure she's got the free time. I don't think she's still working. Millie, get to Philly. Millie to Philly. Millie to Philly. Let's do it. We can start that.
Make it happen.
We need her at home for that Vikings Super Bowl that's going to happen because she's our good luck charm.
I want her to be our good luck charm on the road. That's what I know. But that's just me. That's a pretty cool, heartwarming story. You could tell she was super happy. And I
thought it was really cool that Commissioner Roger Goodell went into the crowd.
Yeah.
To talk to Millie. It's like, I know that it's weird to think, that he's above mingling with the common people. But you never see it happen. So it's kind of cool to see it happening.
You always see him up in like a fancy press box or whatever. And so, yeah, I get it. It is cool.
Yeah, I love that.
We love Millie. SKOL Millie.
Yeah.
Millie. Hell yeah. If you guys didn't get that from the Bud Light commercials. So let's talk about this freaking game yesterday, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was okay.
Yeah, totally was the most boring game of the weekend. First of all, before we go through, let's recap because we have to talk about the Super Bowl matchups now. Atlanta lost to Philly, which was surprising to all of us. I thought
Yes.
Atlanta was on a hot streak. The Philadelphia Eagles figured out a way. Nick Foles did not throw an interception or a touchdown, which is weird. But they got it done. It was a low-scoring game. The Titans showed life for about 8 minutes against the Pats, and then they went to sleep.
Yep.
It was bad. Nobody expected or gave the Titans a chance. The Patriots advanced to their 7th consecutive AFC Championship game. I love greatness, but I'm getting real fucking sick and tired of seeing these guys every year of going to the freaking AFC Championship and the Super Bowl.
I mean, come on. They had to play the Tennessee Titans in the playoffs.
They had no business.
Greatest quarterback to ever play the game. You got to play the Tennessee Titans in the playoffs. I get worked up over that too.
They had no Tennessee had no business being there, but whatever, they advanced. And
how about Jacksonville?
They got rid of their head coach, which is funny to me. You guys upset and won a road game by 1 point? I'm sorry you didn't beat the best dynasty ever in football. You got to go. Sorry.
Thank you. Bye.
Game yesterday, which was great. All the memes that came out about that, and we could talk about that for about 5 minutes at the end of the show. Because if Minnesota's got the best defense, Jacksonville's 1B right below us and interchangeable. It depends. They have a killer defense.
I called that game. I called it.
You did. Adam
did,
called it. And they walked in with swagger yesterday. If you guys didn't hear, Jacksonville won 45-42. They were up 21-0 in the first quarter.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Jacksonville minus Blake Bortles is the real deal. He is still a hot piece of shitty garbage. I don't care what anybody says, but
he made the wrong throws when he had to, which was crazy.
Yeah, it's a roll. I'm so glad we're not Jacksonville fans. He is so up and down. It's so frustrating. But
if they can get that quarterback position figured out, they'll be the scariest team in the league.
They absolutely will be. And I don't like this word, but I'm going to say this word, and you guys can just rip me apart in the chat. But swagger is a thing. If you saw it with Stephon Diggs after the game, I can't find a more cocky and confident person than Jalen Ramsey. And he truthfully believes they're going to the Super Bowl and they're going to win it, because he said it last night, which I think now, because you called that, Tom Brady's going to make you look like a jackass this next Sunday.
Well, look at how the Steelers looked right past Jacksonville.
They did. They were already thinking they were going to get the revenge game and just go ahead and advance. And that really bit them in the ass yesterday, if you guys didn't hear that. It was crazy.
Not good to be taunting the other team like that.
But I do like the story of underdogs, and they've just been at the basement and the bottom of the cellar for so long, and here they are 1 game away from the Super Bowl. So congrats to Jacksonville. You guys got a crazy good team minus your quarterback, and hey, who knows? Miracles are happening everywhere. And one happened last night with the Vikings, because the Vikings beat the Saints. We swept the Saints this year. We won 29-24. Pissed off the Vegas guys because we didn't kick an extra point. And the last couple minutes
of the game
was just ridiculous. That's all I heard about today. Well, why didn't they kick that? Why would we? Those guys were halfway back to New Orleans, and they had to pull him back onto the field. Like,
the Saints had their punter and the special teams unit just because nobody else wanted to come out of the locker room.
Yeah, I sent you guys that photo this morning. That might be the first play in modern NFL history that had two punters.
Talked about it.
Yeah, it had 2 punters on the field at the same time. You'd probably have to go all the way back to when punter was hardly a position, when you would have like a linebacker or someone that would play both ways.
Follow Pat McAfee. It's the Pat McAfee Show, the former punter for the Colts. Follow him on Instagram. He did a cool thing. He's like, yep, this is sweet. Case Keenum leading the SKOL chant, blah, blah, blah. And I forget, Moorhead was the punter's name of the Saints. He's like, Moorhead's playing D-line, for God's sake. Because it's just funny how he narrates it. But he called that out, what you're talking about, Kyle. He was talking about how he's like, well, they just have so many random people who just want to get this last play. They're going to kneel down, but they have to do it by regulation.
I honestly think the funniest thing that I seen was the former punter for the Saints. The one that ended up in the wheelchair. I cannot remember his name offhand. But he tweeted out that he was so shocked that he can't. He's like, I'm so stunned I can't move, and that has nothing to do with the game. It's like he just legitimately is in a wheelchair. I thought that was really funny, and there were a lot of Saints fans that were like, "Thank you for that. We needed that moment."
So let's break down this game a little bit. The first downs in the game went in Minnesota's favor just slightly, 24-23. While Minnesota had about 50 more yards on offense than the Saints, with 4:03 to 3:58. Minnesota won the time of possession, 33-17 to 26-43. Minnesota picked up 5 first downs off penalties from the Saints, which could have been a big difference maker. Another huge situation here was where the Saints only converted 2 of their 9 attempts on third down, whereas the Vikings went 10 for 17. And when you think about it that way,
that's ridiculous.
Yeah, the fact that there were that many attempts on third down for Minnesota is pretty cool. It just shows how they were able to control the clock, the time of possession, and do their own thing. Let's see what else we got here. We've got penalties. Minnesota only had 4 for 30 during the game, which is very impressive, whereas the Saints had 7 for 97. And you can't really win a game too well that way.
Jason Tavade is pointing out what I was trying to say earlier. The Saints punter broke a rib and came out for the rest of the game. What a badass. Sucks that they lost.
He looked like he was in pretty severe pain.
Did he try to RKO whoever was running that back? I can't remember who it was. It was weird. The weirdest tackle I've ever seen.
It was Marcus Sherrills.
Marcus Sherrills?
He tried to tackle Marcus Sherrills.
That's right. Marcus Sherrills still plays for us. I love you, Marcus.
That's why they always tell punters and kickers, like, if it gets to you, just try to get in the way, but don't get hurt because you don't have a backup. Like there's no backup plan.
I called it. We all saw that he was hurt. I was like, that kicker is about to have a long day punting. He's going to be pissed. Yeah. Nope. Homeboy came back out there and sucked it up and had a gutsy performance all day. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, so let's break down some of the stats for Minnesota here. Case Keenum started off the game pretty well. Ended up having 25 completions on 40 attempts for 318 yards, 1 touchdown and 1 interception while being sacked twice. A QBR of 64.6 and a rating of 85.2. Leading the way on the ground was Latavius Murray with 19 carries for 50 yards, only averaging 2.6, while Jerick McKinnon averaged 4.3 by picking up 34 yards on 8 carries. Each of them ran for a touchdown. CJ Ham had 1 carry for 7 and a first down. Case Keenum himself only scrambled once for 4 yards. Moving on to the receivers, this is where we got the big numbers here. Stephon Diggs, 6 catches, 137 yards, averaging 22.8 yards per catch, 1 touchdown. Thielen, 6 for 74. Jarius Wright had 3 catches for 56. Rudolph, 5 for 28. Murray, 2 for 17. And McKinnon, 3 for 6. So the Vikings offense definitely getting things cooking there, especially through the air with 318 yards done there. Leading the way in tackles on defense, we got Eric Kendricks, 10 total tackles, 7 solo. Harrison Smith next at 7, 6 of those solo. Next we got tied for 4 was pretty much the entire team. Sendejo, Waynes, Joseph, Barr, Harris, and Johnson. The Vikings had trouble getting to Drew Brees to bring him to the ground. Harrison Smith had 1 sack. Everson Griffin had another. But otherwise, Drew Brees stayed upright through most of the game. Passes defense to Andrew Sendejo had 2 big pass defenses. Same with Xavier Rhodes. While Mackenzie Alexander had 1, as well as Anthony Barr. And I thought Everson Griffin had 1 on here, if I didn't say his name already, because he batted a ball that
the craziest batted ball I've ever seen.
That was the one that Anthony Barr got because it hit the back of his hand. Like he swatted it backhand, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
His back was to the quarterback, and he still got his arm up to hit the ball.
He was spinning, and he saw it out of his right eye as he was turning around and just like, I'm just going to throw my hand out here.
It was
crazy.
It was probably total dumb luck. It actually worked. You know that
if you can get your hands up, you always got a chance. And you're told that as a defensive lineman that if you see the quarterback starting to throw, get your hands up. And the fact that he had that instinct to know that a pass was probably coming to throw his hands up is unbelievable. Let's talk about interceptions here. We talked about Anthony Barrs. Andrew Sendejo had a nice play where I think he actually tricked Drew Brees into throwing that football by kind of taking a step the opposite direction and then closing in. And then he had a full extension of his body to grab the football. It was an amazing play.
That was nice. That was a nice interception. And then they targeted him afterwards. But Bountygate came back in. They're like, get that guy out of the game.
Yeah, I'm not too happy about that hit. But
that hit, I don't like that hit that he took, and I don't like the fact that Fox didn't replay it. and then I had to go to. It's like they were like, well,
listen, Kyle, that was so totally clean. Just like Andrew Sandeo should have been suspended earlier in the year, but that hit on him was totally clean, right? Because we have such efficient officiating in the NFL.
And there were reports all over Twitter that after that play, Michael Thomas went to the Saints sideline and was giving his teammates high fives. And if that's true, which I have not seen actually documented video of it, but if that is true, that is a very classless kind of thing.
Very
but I have heard other things about classless things, and you've already talked a little bit about that, Mr. West.
Are we talking about the Sean Payton?
You were, yeah.
Yeah, where Sean Payton, and again, this has been all over social media. No video has came from this, and you would think with as many people that were packed in, someone would have got it. But I haven't seen any video, so we're just going on hearsay. But it was like Ben Lever was talking about this too, so it can't be total bullshit. That he was, when the Saints went up and it looked like they were going to win the game, that Sean Payton was taunting Vikings fans by like mocking the SKOL chant, which I don't like from a head coach. Like, don't.
How's that working out for you now, asshole?
Yeah, he's at home sitting on the couch. I kind of get players. Players are younger. They're in the moment. They're playing the game. Sometimes the emotions come out, and that's what happens. But a coach, you're supposed to be the leader of this team, and you gotta be classier than that. That's not. I don't like Sean Payton to begin with, and this really makes me not like Sean Payton.
Yeah, if you didn't like the Saints, you're not going to like Michael Thomas or Peyton after that.
No,
you're definitely not.
But the weird thing is that I like Drew Brees. I think he's a good guy. I like Drew. Yeah,
I still don't like how much he whined during the game with freaking where he was getting sacked, and he's like, "You got to watch him. He's going to hurt me." It's like, shut up. But yeah. He whined a little bit, and I don't care for that a whole lot, but he does a lot of good things in the community and seems like a good guy. So yeah, it's hard to hate him. And I don't dislike him. I just hate when people whine. It's like Aaron Rodgers, fantastic quarterback, but he whines for flags so much that it's hard to take him seriously.
Because it usually works.
But he's the first one to come in and do some passive-aggressive shit at the podium, like when he beats Minnesota and drinks Purple Crush. But when there's a totally legal hit, he's just cussing up a storm because his vajayjay got hurt because Anthony Barr played an actual tackle and put football on him. But that's let's not go down that rabbit hole.
Let's finish up special teams so we can get to our game balls.
Please do.
Marcus Sherrills, 1 punt return for 19 yards. Kai Forbath, 3 for 4 on field goals. 1 miss is a long field goal, and you're not expected to make all those long field goals, but the fact he made 3, including 1 from 53, is pretty darn sweet. And he converted on both his extra points. Ryan Quigley, 4 punts for 127 yards, averaging 31.8. Short average, and 1 of them was a touchback, but 2 of them added inside the 20. And it's his first touchback of the year, including the regular season. Crazy.
Yeah.
It's all Joe Buck's fault.
You guys should have heard me. I was sitting there, I was watching the end of the Jags game, and then they tuned it over and the audio came on, and I was like, oh, great, we get to listen to Bert and Ernie for 3 fucking hours out here. Hey, this is fantastic. No, actually, I'd rather listen to Bert and Ernie.
I don't like Joe Buck. Can I defend Joe Buck for a minute? His call in the final moments of the game is good.
It really is.
It was really a good call. He was on the Rich Eisen podcast. I seen the clip this morning, and he talked about how that is one of the top plays, maybe the best play that he's ever had the opportunity to call. And he was really happy to get the opportunity to do that. So you got to give him credit for that moment. You really do.
Mm-hmm.
I can still hate Troy Aikman though, right?
Troy Aikman, who did not think the Vikings have a good running game, despite the fact that we were right.
We were second in the league under the best that we were playing against.
Yeah.
Troy wouldn't know that because Troy probably thinks he's the greatest quarterback ever, and we all know that I can't.
Yeah, Aikman is.
I can't.
If that duo, if it was Buck and someone else, I might not hate it as much. But that Aikman.
If it was like Joe Buck and Tony Romo, that would be a good combination.
I could see that.
Yeah, and I think Troy Aikman had his bling on yesterday from his stuff, and he doesn't wear that every week. And I was like, oh, that's cool.
All right, so let's
whatever.
go game balls and donkeys. And me and Mr. Smith have the exact same game ball. So take it away, Mr. Smith.
Andrew Sendejo, you get the game ball from me. It would be really easy here to give it to Stephon Diggs, but he got a game ball from the coach, not taking anything away from him. How many catches did he have? 5? Was it 5 or 6?
Yes, 6 catches for Diggs.
6 catches for Diggs, 10 targets. I mean, when you have 6 receptions and 137 yards, that's pretty amazing, even though 50 or 61 of them came on in one play. He was balling out. Case, besides an errant throw, I thought he did everything he needed to do. He made some really good throws. But, God, Anderson Dejo was just everywhere last night before that little cheap shot. And it makes me happy because we always talk about the big-name guys like Xavier and Everson and Harrison Smith. Our linebackers usually get a lot of love. Anderson Dejo gets lost in the shuffle, but he played out of his mind, and his rating showed that, and I hope he comes back because we need him. He's an underrated part of this defense, and you get my game ball, sir.
Absolutely. It's hard not to love everything he did. And as soon as he left the game, you could tell that the entire team just kind of like had a lot of the air taken out from them, whether it was anger or, concern or what. Anderson Dejo leaving that game was a turning point.
Mm-hmm.
I firmly believe that if he had been in there, for the rest of the game, I don't think the defense would have had as many miscues, especially deeper or in the end zone. That and with the Xavier Rhodes injury, when the secondary was all beat up and Drew Brees was taking advantage of it, it made it look rough.
I think Andrew Sendejo was a locker room leader. You can see that. Did you see the emotion on Xavier Rhodes?
Yeah.
When he got out, Rhodes was ready to go throw down and fight.
Rhodes had to be calmed down by Zimmer and the teammates.
Yeah, it took Mike Zimmer to physically talk to him on the sides. Who was that? It was Terrence Newman. It was Terrence Newman that pulled him off the field and was physically restraining him and pulling him back. And then it was Newman who walked him to Mike Zimmer. I love that relationship that they got going on. That's a true veteran move and a true leadership decision right there. And we're going to miss the shit out of that guy if he's off the team next year. If Terrence Newman retires, he's going to come back and coach for this team.
The people in the chat here, Thomas Buge, he has the same donkey as both Mr. West and Mr. Smith.
I got to give my game ball first. I got to give my game ball to it's for me. It's got to go to Stephon Diggs.
Even those wide receivers, I tell you,
it has to. But no, it has to because he just had a play named after him. Okay, when you have a play named after you,
I was just so shocked at how heads up it was because everybody in a moment of a 2 second,
I was screaming, "Get out of bounds!"
Yes, everybody's like, "Get out of bounds!" And then you realize, oh my God, he's going to score the touchdown and win this game for us.
It was unbelievable.
What a heads up move!
All right, but let's talk about this for a second. Where what's the young man Williams? What's his first name?
Oh,
no idea.
The Saints defender.
Marcus?
I'm not sure. Marcus Williams sounds right.
On a human level, I feel terrible for this kid.
I actually tweeted him after the game because what I wrote was, keep your head up. Don't let one play define you. Just if you need any help, be sure to ask Jim Marshall. I'm sure he'll tell you what it's like to be, singled out for a bad play, but yet go on to have an amazing career.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually reading stuff from him on Twitter. Steve Gleason, not sure who that is, but it's
that was the Saints player I was talking about earlier. He was the
Marcus Williams had a spectacular rookie season. A lot of people forget that he's a rookie. He was trying to make the right decision and not interfere. As a competitor, I'm sure he's crushed. I invite Nola to be encouraging and support him as we move on. Marcus Williams says he's not going to let one play define the type of player that he is. I'm with you, man. I felt absolutely horrible for that kid.
I get what he was trying to do. He went low and outside to try to take Diggs down at the legs and keep him in bounds. Clock runs out, game over. I get what he was going for. The problem is that Diggs' legs stayed off to the side rather than coming down straight. And that's where the whiff came because his legs weren't where they were supposed to be. They didn't come down like he was going to land flat on his feet.
Look at the replay. There's a replay where the camera is up and from the end zone looking down, so you see it from behind. And Diggs does do this weird sort of contortion in midair. You're right, Adam, where it's like he shifts his waist and his legs off to the side as he's like jumping up or down. I'm not sure how he did it.
Mhm.
And then that just caused him, the Saints defender, to...
Yeah, he completely misjudged where his legs were going to be.
He misjudged, and then just absolute dumb luck on so many levels. He rolled into the other Saints defender behind him and took him out of the play entirely. and that left Diggs, who almost fell out of bounds, with a straight shot right to the end zone.
And then Brian Robinson runs down the sideline with his hands up. And there's a great photo that I found of Terrence Newman's in it. Mike Zimmer's on the right corner of when Diggs is making the catch. And you're going to see everyone's just like, Jesus, please catch that ball. And like I'm saying, within a matter of 2 seconds, it's, oh my God, he might catch this. Holy shit, he caught it. Get out of bounds. Oh my God, he's going to score this touchdown and win. In a 2-second span, the place I was at went absolutely insane. I tipped over my chair by accident. I can't talk fully today. I can't play my guitar and sing like I want to because I just screamed at the top of my lungs for 5 minutes straight. It was craziest.
There's a lot of really underrated things that, like, other than the catch. Everyone's focusing on the catch, of course, but there's a lot of stuff in that play that had to happen for that chain of events to take place. You go all the way back to the beginning of it, where you got Kyle Rudolph running an underneath route, and then he sort of shoves his defender out of bounds, that if Rudolph doesn't commit and then like shove that guy out, there's the possibility that there would have been another defender in position to make a tackle. And then you're looking at the Saints guy, the player who went low and rolled into the other guy that took him out of the play. I think it was Shannon Sharp that I was listening to this morning, who pulled up the 40 times between the players and was like, that other defender actually had a faster 40 time than Stephon Diggs. So there's the possibility that had they not rolled into one another, that Diggs could have been caught from behind and got tackled in bounds with no time left on the clock, and it could have been over as well, too. So if all of this shit doesn't take place at the same time, there's no score. It's an unbelievable chain of events.
Yeah. I gotta say, I had 2 other choices for game balls. One was Everson Griffin for his reaction after the touchdown. He was stunned for like 10 minutes.
Can we repeat that on the show?
You guys have been swearing all day. So.
Go for it. What did he say?
He just said, "What the fuck?" And he just like stood. And this is the best part about it.
Out, like,
yeah, just hands up. Like, I can't believe this really happened. His interview was priceless. But can we talk about this? In this being the whole thing that I never thought he would trump his reaction from that overtime win from Teddy to Jarius against the Jets.
Didn't.
And he totally topped it.
See, my second game ball is another reaction though, because it's CJ Ham, because he looked like he'd been there and done this before, just walking around with his helmet all cool and calm.
You can watch. This is so much fun because you can watch all of these videos, and every time you can pick something new out. I didn't even see that, Adam. I got to go back and look for that.
CJ Ham's he's got his helmet in his hand, and he's just walking around like everybody else is running around jumping. CJ Ham's just walking around checking out everything.
That's amazing. Did you see? Speaking of Everson Griffin, he had another awesome moment where someone was trying to interview him on the sidelines. Some female reporter. And he goes to hug another Vikings player, and
he just sandwiched her.
They sandwich her? No, and then the best part is she tries to pull out, and her hair gets stuck underneath his arm, and he just like keeps it locked in, and she can't get out, and her hair is like, it's so awkward. It's so good.
Oh, so much good stuff.
Oh my God.
Now let's talk about bad stuff. We got donkeys.
That interception. Well, are we gonna do donkeys?
Donkeys.
Yeah, Adam, who's your donkey? Since me and Kyle are talking about the same guy.
This was a very easy one for me. It's Rashad Hill.
Yeah.
Who was it just in the chat that said that? Jason Tavade said it was tough task for him against Cam Jordan. Wish they'd helped him a bit more. Wondered why Rimmers was at left guard and substituted him at right tackle.
Well, the issue is that Rashad Hill moves better, even though Rashad Hill has a tendency to be high sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
They keep his stance high. He needs to learn to get a little bit lower, keep those feet moving. But he was put with a really tough task this week, and he wasn't given any help. And He's been solid through a lot of the season, but this was a matchup that just was not good for him.
It's weird that you said exactly what you said about his deficiencies because I hate giving Troy Aikman credit. But if you guys listen closely, he pointed exactly that out yesterday, and it was really weird. He absolutely did.
Oh.
And that's
now I feel like an ass.
No, you don't. Troy Aikman's still a douche, but it's fine.
I watch a lot of offensive linemen, so yeah, I pay pretty close attention to those stances.
Little Pump in the chat says, how many times have you watched the game-winning touchdown? I've watched touchdown about 1,000 times.
If I'm being realistic, probably close to 70.
I watched it just to see what they were going to do, and then, of course, the internet roasted Marcus Williams. Is that his name? Williams?
Yeah.
They've roasted him a lot. There's so many crop pictures of Hulk Hogan doing the leg drop, Randy Orton with the
stunner, dancing, ice skating, slipping down.
God, there's so many things roasting him, and I'm not going to make fun of and laugh at it. I already had that once. I don't want to do it again, but it's just so much stuff going around. But watching it, people putting the Titanic music to it, and then somebody put Ludacris "Move, Get Out of the Way" song to it. I've seen it easily 100 times in the last 24 hours.
Oh yes.
I don't even know, but I've watched it so many times as well.
Between the number of times on TV and the number of times I've watched it from different angles. People recording it and watching reactions. I've been watching a couple. I admit I hate doing this because I know I feel like a bad person when I do it. But I was watching some of the Saints fans' reactions to that moment.
Yeah, I mean, hey,
I feel a little dirty doing it, but it strangely felt kind of good.
Guys, we got to live in this moment because this doesn't happen as Vikings fans ever. That we're on this side of the good luck for us. Yeah. So and enjoy this, man. This is as fans, we have all week to enjoy this until we play the Eagles. And I know that players are already moved on. Diggs this morning is already doesn't even want to talk to the media. They're back to business as usual. But as fans, enjoy this. We've been saying this all season long. Just enjoy it because this is really special.
I'm looking at Hobna in the chat, and we disagree on this. Says no donkey on this win. That second half definitely has a donkey or two to pick out from it. Not to get you confrontational on here. We love a good conversation, but me and Kyle West give it to Xavier Rhodes. He's had a pretty amazing year. He shut down a lot of people. Michael Thomas burned the shit out of him a couple times yesterday. On top of because they were talking about it in the chat, and they were saying, well, everybody's emotional, that can be a reason for a donkey. It absolutely can be a reason for a donkey. You need to keep your composure together because the other team is constantly watching you. And if they're in your head, if he was to play a guy like Steve Smith, he would eat that up and just eat him alive. You got to keep your composure together and use that as fuel to turn it into shutting him down. Now, I'm not saying
tackling fuel.
Tackling fuel.
Tackling fuel.
But I'm not saying that he played awful yesterday. He had a couple of good I know he had one great pass defense, and you're locked in on their number one guy. This guy has the most receptions ever by a wide receiver in 2 seasons. So he's pretty damn good, but you can't let him get the best of you. And one of those touchdowns, he just got burned, man, and it was really annoying to see because Xavier's done that a lot. He's always gotten better each year, but he'll have a game or two where he reverts back to his ways, whether it's being handsy or he just lets the emotion get the best of him, man. You got to be on top of that. We can't have that on the road. That's why I picked him out.
Yeah, I don't blame Rhodes for getting upset. I mean, he was right there when Sendejo got that blow to the head. And
I'm not talking about that play. I'm talking about throughout the game because he's always talking a lot of crap, which is fine, but you can't do it when the guy goes for the stats that he had yesterday. That's uncharacteristic of this guy, especially for an all-pro corner.
And Jason Tavati makes another good point here is that Rhodes has been playing hurt. He's not at 100%. And being a cornerback in the NFL is tough enough. And I know that right now at this point in the NFL season, this deep in the playoffs, there's really no such thing as being 100%. And all these guys have so much wear and tear and hurt on their body that they're just fighting every day. But I do believe that Rhodes is giving his best. And yeah, he lost his cool. But I do think that we are going to see him have a lot more composure against Philly.
I mean, he's also human. It's a game of emotions, and I would imagine he's probably good friends with Andrew Sendejo based on
I'd hope so.
On the reaction that we've seen from him on the field. Like, if he was just like, I don't know, I don't want to say just any other teammate, but if he was just some random guy that he worked with that he was like, whatever, I don't think he would have reacted that way. So they must be friends.
Oh, I'm sure there's a lot of respect going back and forth between those two.
Everybody loves Xavier too, because everybody's always wearing Rhodes clothes and stuff, and this stuff.
Hey,
to clarify to these guys in the chat, I totally understand what you're saying. I'm totally cool with it. I would have my guys here that I work with, and if they got into a fight, for out drinking or something, I'd totally get in there for them. I just didn't like. I don't know, man. I just didn't like all the jawing that was going on because the other guy's kind of holding his own against you. Not the whole game, but definitely the second half. And I know there's a lot of coaching adjustments there, but I do appreciate the passion for being ready to go for your teammate, because I couldn't believe that happened, and I couldn't believe how good that Sendejo was playing otherwise.
Jason in the chat brings up a really good question I wanted to ask you guys as well too. Was anyone shocked that Zimmer didn't send any blitzes on Breeze through those last two drives by the Saints?
A lot of man. It was crazy.
Yeah, he admitted in his post-game presser that he stuck with the man scheme a little too much. So even in the moment, he recognized kind of maybe that he maybe made a mistake on calling the defense. Yep. So I wouldn't worry about that moving forward. Like we know that, he knows that as well too.
Absolutely. So let's break down the top 5 Pro Football Focus rated players from this game on the Minnesota Vikings side. Number 1, Andrew Sendejo with 82.8, a fantastic game from him. Jerick McKinnon's next with 81.5. Stephon Diggs third with 81. Latavius Murray at 80.3. And Harrison Smith with 78.9. 2 safeties, 2 running backs, and a wide receiver.
Amazing that for as much time as Sendejo missed in the game, that he's still graded out as the top-rated player.
As I said, he was having an amazing game up until his injury. He seems to be improving nearly every game. He's getting smarter. He's knowing more about where to be. He's learning how to kind of manipulate quarterbacks like we saw during this game. He's being, I don't want to say less physical, but smarter with his physicality. Because before he'd just throw his body at everybody, and now he's being a little bit more cautious about what's going on. And I think it's really working out in his favor.
Coaching. It's coaching, man. It comes down to good coaching, and he must be taken to it.
Meanwhile, it's awesome to see McKinnon and Murray both there because at this point, it's hard to still remember that the Vikings don't have Dalvin Cook. I mean, we're so used to seeing McKinnon and Murray on the field that it feels weird right now even thinking about Dalvin Cook.
I know. I've seen him on the sidelines yesterday, just like in street clothes, whatever.
Yeah, they gave an update that he's been doing fantastic too. Yeah. So big thumbs up there.
It was nice to see him in the background. I did the same thing where I was like, oh yeah, fucking Dalvin Cook is on this team.
I've got something for you guys. What? Not really breaking, but we were talking about it earlier, and we do have video evidence. I follow a nice, beautiful lady called Sal Spice on Instagram. So shout out to her because she's a diehard Vikings fan. Here's your picture if you guys can break it down on there, and I can talk and keep this on the screen. Here's Sean Payton being a total asshole and doing the SKOL chant.
Oh, it does exist.
Yeah,
it does exist.
Oh, you got to send that out to me so I can tweet that on our Twitter page.
I absolutely will, because he can
enjoy the
NFC Championship game on his couch.
Wow, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, I hadn't seen that either.
Mike Zimmer would never do something that stupid. I cannot believe that he did something like that. Actually, yeah.
It's not surprising. You know what? It's not surprising because he did the choking motion to the Saints. Or not the Saints, the Falcons.
Oh, yeah, he did too.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, not good, not good.
Douchebag.
All right, so
I hope Drew Brees leaves him hanging, and I hope they just absolutely tank next year.
Speaking of, I have one thing that I want to talk about real quick from this game, and then we can wrap it up if you want, but I have it here in front of me. Because had we not came out with that miracle play, there would be a lot of – well, first of all, there'd be a lot of want for Tom Brady, Drew Brees in a Super Bowl, which I would have – if going forward, if we had not won, that's what I would have hoped for. I don't think
– Bortles, man. Blake.
Jesus, there's still a possibility of Blake Bortles and Nick Foles in the Super Bowl, guys. Wrap your head around that craziness. But Drew Brees, and there was a lot of talk earlier in the week. It's like if they win another championship, is he better than Aaron Rodgers going down in history? And that's another topic we could talk about if this wasn't a Vikings podcast. Let's look at stats. Because a lot of my guys were talking about this week, they're like, oh, well, it's a battle of the quarterbacks. I'm like, I'm not worried about your past resume. I'm not trying to hire you for something. What have you done for me lately? Case Keenum and Drew Brees had pretty much the same stats all year. Drew Brees was a little more accurate. The stats for the game are creepy similar. 25 of 40 from both quarterbacks. Drew Brees had 294 yards. Case Keenum had 318. 7.3 average, 7.9 average. Respectively, I'm going Drew Brees first. 3 touchdowns for Brees, 1 for Case Keenum. 2 picks for Brees, 1 for Keenum. 2 sacks each. QBR 64.6 for Keenum, 51.3 for Brees. Overall rating, 89 for Brees and 85.2 from Keenum.
Don't you think it's weird that the ratings are so weird that Case Keenum has a higher QBR, but Drew Brees has a higher quarterback rating?
That is weird.
But that Willie Snead pass, I hate trick plays, but that could have burnt Minnesota really bad.
They almost got us on that one. Good thing he's not their starter. Damn, he could probably be their backup. He's got a good arm.
Not too shabby. That was a scary one right there.
And I wanted to talk about one other thing because this is going to be crucial come Sunday. Now, somebody in the chat, I forgot who it was. He's far up there, and I'm not going to scroll because I'm lazy. Said it's going to be like 53 degrees Sunday, which is great. The warmer, the better, in my opinion. But let's look at the rushing here because the Vikings defense, as we were talking about earlier, great on third down again, good on the time possession, everything else. 80 total yards between Ted Ginn, Drew Brees, Mark Ingram, and Alvin Kamara. 80 yards. The Vikings, between Murray, McKinnon, Ham, and Keenum, 95. We have to break 100 yards Sunday on a tremendous defensive line if we're going to win this game. Now, I'm not saying that it has to be all one person. It doesn't even have to be the combination of McKinnon and Murray. It could actually take a little bit of scramble from Keenum. But we got to up those numbers. But what a hell of a job stopping the run against Drew Brees and the Saints, man.
Jason Tavati did mention something in the chat here. He's been making good points all day.
Yeah, he has.
He said that Rick Spielman was named Executive of the Year, which it's true for his effort in bringing in personnel and working with the team. So congratulations to him on that. He's well deserved.
Scott Schwab says, you know who should be the next offensive coordinator? Darrell Bevel. Darrell Bevel to the pit of misery, please. No, absolutely not.
My friend who's a Seahawks fan absolutely hates Darrell Bevel.
My buddy Michael from back home,
yeah,
huge Seahawks fan. He's like, that is the reason we were held back for so long. Because they were playing backyard football up there in Seattle for a long time.
But I do want to talk one other thing about this game because there were so many cool former Vikings that were talking about this game in particular, about how much it meant to them, how they still feel like they're part of the team, not just a former part of the team. Chris Carter coming out and just talking about that moment. John Randall was at the Mall of America today, and he was so full of excitement and just love, so positive about this team. You can feel it not only through the fans, but through the former players, the state, everything itself, even the fan base outside of Minnesota. The feeling for Vikings fans right now is just cloud nine heading into this game against Philly. And it's not going to be an easy game, but man, it gives you so much hope.
If we survive this one, didn't we say last week that if we beat the Saints, that should be the toughest
Yes. I still agree with that.
On the road to the Super Bowl. I still believe that. We pulled out a friggin' miracle to pull this one off, but somehow we did it. Now we got to travel into Philadelphia. That's a hostile environment. I know
this does give the NFL an extra week. The NFL usually takes 2 weeks to prepare for the Super Bowl, and you know that they were sitting there just hoping that Philadelphia would win so that they'd have an extra week to prepare US Bank Stadium for the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
You know that they were just sitting there, please, come on. And they got their wish. I mean, I wish Minnesota would have gotten Atlanta at US Bank Stadium, even though it would have been a harder game. It would have been at home. But I'm kind of glad everything's working out the way it is, and I'm really looking forward to this game against Philly. It's the late game on Sunday as well, so don't miss it.
Hey, I'm okay with late games. Late games are our new lucky thing. Screw that 12 o'clock shit. Don't sleep on Nick Foles. That's my assessment of the Philadelphia Eagles. Because remember where he had that game where he threw for like 7
I don't want to hear that shit. I love you, Kyle.
I'm just saying.
Threw for 6 touchdowns in a game, and he sucks. No, absolutely not. I am not worried.
5 touchdowns in a game.
Who?
I poke high Al Bundy.
Yeah, he did.
I can't lie with you. He could play decent. He's had a little bit of time to get adjusted because he's had some crappy games in the short time that he's been around. He didn't have the luxury of playing all season like Keenum did and getting in a rhythm as long, but it's about that time that he should be settling in. And they are at home. They do have a home field advantage there. Philly fans are crazy and obnoxious.
Cold weather for the Vikings. It's going to be a little different.
But I'm not worried about Nick Foles as much as I am about that D-line. That D-line is crazy. We need to have lots of protection up front and get this run game going. That's how we beat them.
I'm going to be interested to see if they still play Mike Remmers at left guard instead of right guard and why that move was even made. I still haven't gotten a lot of clarification as to why this change was made. I know that it was probably so that the Vikings could run a little bit more behind the left side of the line instead of the right and have their more speedy players out on the right side for screens and sweeps, but they never really utilized a lot of the screen game. I don't remember Minnesota throwing a lot of screen passes.
No, not really.
Which is kind of weird. But yeah, Philadelphia, that defense showed that they're the real deal. Minnesota has a very strong defense as well. And I still do like Minnesota's offense over the Eagles' offense. So yeah, I'm going to pick Minnesota on this one. And I'm not even going to try to hide that it's a chance. I'm not going to hide that I'm passionately 100% behind Minnesota in that game.
I'm with the Vikings on this one. I want them to win. I think if they don't have a second half like they did yesterday where they play soft and they got to play like they did the first 2 quarters, the whole game. But I believe this is going to be a 2017 game. It's going to be slow. It's going to be defensive everything tomorrow.
And you know what? Not to interrupt. Sorry to interrupt.
No, let's go ahead. Good.
But in a way, wouldn't that kind of be to our advantage? Because look, this happens when, like, the first half of that game, every flag went in favor of the Minnesota Vikings. It was helping us out. We played unbelievable. Drew Brees had like a 0.0 quarterback rating after the end of the first half. When you have that much go your way in the first half of a football game, the chances of continuing that on in the second, they just can't be good. Like, that's just not going to happen. So if it is a little more of a normal first half to a football game, a little low scoring, Vikings get out on top, that kind of plays into our favor. And I'm okay with that situation happening, if that makes sense.
It does.
Yeah.
But that is all that I believe I have for this week.
Oh, you guys want to do a game prediction? I mean, we've done it so far.
I got Patriots Vikings.
Pats and the Vikings. I really would love to see a defensive, just absolute storm with Jacksonville and the Vikings, only because I love a dynasty. I love greatness, but I'm tired of seeing the Pats there. But unfortunately, Jalen Ramsey, you're talking all that shit. Now Bill Belichick and Tom Brady are going to make an example out of you. And you have Blake Bortles at quarterback. The Pats don't have a terrible defense. They're going to pick you apart. I've got the Patriots and I've got the Vikings going to and advancing to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, it's all three of us. It's Patriots and Vikings. It's unbelievable. I know we're all Vikings fans. I can't believe that we're
one game away from the Super Bowl, man.
That we're one game away from the Super Bowl, and I don't.
Home.
I mean, it's. You knew when Brett Favre was on this team in 2009, this is not going to end well. I mean, we didn't want to admit it. We never said it out loud. You just knew it. I don't feel that right now. I feel like we can go into Philly and we can win. And I feel like we can go to the Super Bowl and we've got a shot. We've got as good a shot of any as to beat this New England team.
I do want to say one thing, though. Mr. Smith.
Yes.
John Randall wants to thank you for picking him to be his favorite player.
Oh, my
As he says right here.
No way! No freaking way.
So that's what John Randall says. He says thank you. And he also, I got one for you too, Mr. West.
Oh, that's fucking
and he
awesome.
forgives you for picking Randy Moss over him just because it's Vikings love.
That is insane.
Holy shit.
Wow, man! Thank you. I'm about to scream again because I watched the documentary on this guy on NFL Films that came out on NFL Network recently, and it's incredible. He reminds me so much of my wrestling coach, Alfred Ashe, and he just, he never thought he had to overcome everything, and I love the fact that he had to lie about his weight to make the team. That is the coolest thing ever, man. Thank you so much. That's That's badass. That's going up on my wall, man.
I'm so glad they both turned out real nice.
Adam's like, yep, there's going to be a $85 shipping fee. Thanks, guys, for sure.
As long as you're not living in the UK.
That's awesome, man. I really appreciate that. That's amazing.
By the way, I moved to the UK recently.
But yeah, like I told you, I was able to stand there, BS with him for a little while. He is one of the most cool guys. Paul Krause, I got to meet him this last week too.
Yeah, tell us about your Paul Krause experience. That was amazing. Tell him about the picture.
Yeah, that's cool.
At the Total Wines around here in the area near Minneapolis, they had player appearances set up, and there were so many cool ones. Pete Burchich was here, John Randall, Paul Krause, Chuck Foreman were all at different locations, and some of them were doing 2 spots. And I figured, okay, well, I'll go to the Paul Krause one early. Then I'll try to hit John Randall twice because I wanted to get Mr. Smith an autographed photo because, it's his favorite player of all time. So I was like, yeah, I definitely want to get that.
Man, that's crazy. That's my favorite Viking in history. That's amazing, man.
So instead of going to get the John Randall autograph, I decided to go see Paul Krause for a second time because when I went to go visit him the first time, I had photoshopped a picture of him with the Hall of Fame logo behind him and his jacket, giving a big thumbs up. And he said, I love that picture. Do you have one that I can have? And I said, I think I brought one. And I looked through my folder and I didn't. I left it here at home. So I was like, oh shit. I actually slid him the one of John Randall I made first. And I'm like, that's not you. He's like, I see how you could mess that up. But I ended up going to the second showing, which was here in Eagan, where he was signing autographs. Line was lot shorter here in Eagan. And I walk up to him. I'd put it in a frame that I got here, after I printed off another one, so I knew it would be perfect. And I brought it to him, handed it to him. He's like, oh, man, can I give you $20 for that? I'm like, how about a picture and an autograph? We'll call it good. So I got a photo with him, got another photo autographed, and I just left. And he made my absolute day, and I think he might be my new favorite all-time Vikings player.
That's a really awesome story, Adam. Dude. And you should print out one of those photos if you ever get an opportunity to meet him again, so you can give one to him.
Actually, know what you should do? Do what that kid does with Seth Rogen every time he meets him. Print off a picture of you taking a picture with him every single time, and then you can hold the picture and get it autographed every time, and be like, "All right, cool. I'll see you next year." Like
that'd be awesome.
That would be incredible. Then you eventually got to get it turned into a T-shirt.
Oh.
All right, guys.
Though, if you ever make it up to the Minnesota area around Minneapolis, hit me up because I've got a pretty good ear to the ground for all these autograph signings.
I would love that. I would love that so much.
It's been so wonderful. I've got my Marcus Sherrills on the wall. I've got Anderson Dejo on the wall. I've got a couple Paul Krauses, which, at this point, I'm starting to get to the point where I'm starting to get too many Paul Krauses just because I love visiting that man. He's so cool. And I felt kind of bad for Pete Burchich. He didn't have really anybody in his line, which made it to where I could walk up and kind of just talk to him a little bit.
I would love that.
And it was real cool. He told me a story where he and his son were driving past the ice cream shop that Paul Krause owns. And what does he see but Paul Krause? He's outside taking the garbage out at his ice cream shop. And he said, I looked at my son and said, see that man taking out the garbage over there? That man's in the NFL Hall of Fame.
That's crazy.
Oh, shoot. So that's cool. Awesome.
Well,
that's awesome.
Thank you again, Adam. That's so awesome of you. And I just got to tell everybody in the chat and anybody that listens this week, dilly dilly, we're on to Philly.
Hey, there's only one way we can end this show. We got to do the SKOL chant.
I don't. You do.
You ready?
Let's do this stuff.
SKOL.
Yeah. Oh,
SKOL. They
were so loud yesterday. So loud yesterday doing that in that stadium. It's crazy.
Yeah, I expect Sendejo to be back next week. I expect Xavier Rhodes to be feeling a little bit better. I expect Terrence Newman to be off the injury report. And I'm feeling optimistic and I'm feeling good.
Yeah.
I do want to remind everybody, I know that the people from the Survival League are waiting to see who's in the Super Bowl before they submit the number of points that they think there's going to be. But remember that is our tiebreaker. So if you are in our Yahoo Survival League, make sure before the Super Bowl to get us your prediction for number of points scored in the game total between both teams. Make sure to make that happen. On that note, I do want to remind you guys to head over to Facebook, check us out on the Purple People Podcast, at Purple People Pod on your Twitter machines. You can head over to anywhere podcasts are heard and pretty much listen to us. I suggest iTunes, PodOMatic, Stitcher, Google Podcasts. There are just way too many to list.
You can call us on the phone. We'll just talk to you.
Late at night when you're lonely, you can call us and we'll talk football with you.
Yeah.
That's what we do. Check out my work over on the Viking Age, where there's no lack of stuff to talk about this week, which is a lot of fun. You can check out my work on Undead Walking, where The Walking Dead just got renewed for season 9 with a new showrunner, Angela King, which is pretty exciting because I love her work. Fear the Walking Dead got a new release date for season 4, which is really cool because I'm really loving that show. And the comic books are just exploring all new territory, so I'm really excited there. So if you're a fan of The Walking Dead, please check out my stuff there. You guys got anything you want to plug?
Yeah, I should talk about my movie podcast that I am doing with my friend Jeff. You can find us. We talk about all kinds of movies. We are facebook.com/shutup, I like this, where we talk about film and just movies in general, which is the same thing as film. Hey, it's been one of those days. We reviewed the movie Guardians, which is a 2016 Russian superhero film. And one of the main characters transforms into a bear with a machine gun. So, yeah, it's pretty cool stuff.
I think I could dig that.
When you were like, hey, I do this podcast with my friend Jeff, all I went to was 22 Jump Street when Channing Tatum's like, my name's Jeff. Please make him do that at the intro every time. Hello, my name's Jeff.
Well, he is a Seahawks fan, so I'm just saying.
Yeah. I have nothing to plug because my life is boring right now. So that's it.
Plug happiness, plug togetherness,
plug good vibes. Let's do it. Let's go this weekend, guys.
And I do want to thank you guys who joined us on Discord during the game. I know that I hopped in a little bit late, but I love how much chat we get going. And I also love that we got up to almost 30 live people watching, which is pretty cool for us. I'm always excited to see so many people here chatting with us, and I love that all you guys are here. Just so cool. Mm-hmm. And also thanks for the 6 thumbs up. I love thumbs ups. Hit the bell if you want to get subscribed, get notified every time we're coming online with a new show. Highly suggest you do that. That way you won't miss nothing.
But don't hit our tight end bell.
No.
Don't hit him. We need him.
Isn't he on IR?
He is. The bell doesn't on IR. So definitely don't, a little bit. So definitely don't hit him.
Don't hit him in wherever he's on IR for.
Right.
Don't do that.
But I do want to thank you guys for joining us. And remember to stay classy, Minnesota.